The greatest enemy you will ever face is not your boss, your spouse, your bank account, or the economy. The greatest enemy you will ever face is the voice inside your head. Right now, as you listen to these words, that voice is likely commenting, judging, or perhaps even doubting what you are hearing. It is the silent narrator of your life, the one that tells you when to be afraid, when to hold back, and when you are not good enough. Most people live their entire lives as slaves to this narrator. They mistake the voice for their own identity. They assume that because they thought something, it must be true. This is the fundamental lie that keeps 99% of the population trapped in a cycle of mediocrity and self-sabotage. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. But because you have been conditioned to listen to the whispers of fear and the shouts of insecurity, you have allowed your inner voice to become an architect of your own failure. This audiobook is not a collection of soft affirmations or feel-good platitudes. It is a manual for internal warfare. We are here to diagnose the sickness of self-sabotage and provide the cure through radical self-mastery. The reality is that most people are addicted to their own struggle. They find comfort in the familiar pain of staying small because the prospect of growth is terrifying. They listen to the voice that says wait until tomorrow or you are not ready yet, and they treat these excuses as objective facts. You are here because you are tired of that cycle. You are here because you know that there is a version of you that is capable of incredible things, yet you feel like you are constantly tripping over your own feet. The stakes could not be higher. If you do not learn to master your inner voice, you will spend the rest of your life watching others achieve what you desired, while you remain paralyzed by a mental script you did not even write. We are going to strip away the myths of luck and talent. We are going to focus on the only thing you truly control: your internal discipline and the way you process your own mind. This is about moving from the 99% who are controlled by their impulses and fears into the 1% who command their own consciousness. It is about recognizing that every time you fail to take action, every time you give in to a distraction, and every time you talk yourself out of a challenge, you are reinforcing a habit of self-destruction. The blueprint for transformation begins with the realization that your mind is a tool, not a master. If you do not learn to handle this tool, it will cut you. But if you master it, you can carve out a life of purpose, freedom, and power. The journey ahead is demanding. It requires you to look at your excuses with cold, hard honesty. It demands that you stop being the victim of your own narrative and start being the author of it. Your transformation starts now. Not when you finish this book, not when you feel inspired, but in this very moment of decision. Let us begin the process of silencing the saboteur and awakening the master within. Chapter 1: The Architect of Your Failure. You must realize that your inner voice was never designed to make you successful. It was designed to keep you alive. Evolutionarily speaking, your brain is a survival machine, not a happiness machine. Its primary function for thousands of years has been to scan for threats, avoid risks, and keep you within the safety of the tribe. In the modern world, this survival mechanism has become your greatest liability. When you think about starting a new business, asking for a promotion, or changing your lifestyle, your inner voice perceives these as risks. To your primal brain, risk equals death. Therefore, the voice begins its work of sabotage. It starts small, with whispers of doubt. It asks you if you really have what it takes. It reminds you of the time you failed in the 3rd grade or the time someone laughed at your ideas. This is the architect of your failure at work. Most people hear these thoughts and think, "This is my intuition warning me." It is not intuition. It is a biological glitch. The 99% are governed by this glitch. They allow the feeling of discomfort to dictate their actions. If they feel nervous, they stop. If they feel uncertain, they wait. You must understand that growth and comfort cannot coexist. If you are waiting to feel ready, you will be waiting until you are in your grave. The architect of failure uses a very specific language. It uses the language of logic to justify cowardice. It tells you that now is not the right time because the economy is uncertain, or you need more credentials, or you need to do more research. These are all high-level forms of procrastination. The inner voice is clever. It knows that if it told you to just give up, you might rebel. So instead, it tells you to delay. Delay is the silent killer of dreams. Think about the last time you had a great idea. For a few seconds, you felt the rush of possibility. Then, almost instantly, the architect stepped in. It began to list all the reasons why it wouldn't work. It pointed out your lack of resources. It reminded you of your responsibilities. And eventually, you breathed a sigh of relief as you let the idea go because the voice gave you a logical excuse to stay safe. You must learn to see this process as it happens. You are not the voice. You are the one who hears the voice. Imagine your mind is a courtroom. The inner voice is the prosecutor, constantly bringing charges against your potential. Most people are the defendant, desperately trying to plead their case. But you need to become the judge. You need to look at the evidence objectively and realize that the prosecutor is biased. The prosecutor's only goal is to keep you in the cage of the known. To master your inner voice, you must first identify its tone and its tactics. It often sounds like your own voice, which is why it is so deceptive. But it is actually a composite of every negative thing you have ever been told, every fear you have ever felt, and every societal expectation you have internalized. It is a parasite that feeds on your potential. When you begin to take action, the parasite gets hungry. It will scream louder. It will bring up your deepest insecurities. This is why many people quit right when they are on the verge of a breakthrough. The pressure of the inner voice becomes too much to bear. But the 1% understand that the screaming of the inner voice is actually a sign of progress. It means you are pushing against the boundaries of your comfort zone. If the voice is quiet, you are stagnant. If the voice is loud, you are growing. You must flip the script and start seeing the resistance as a compass. Where the voice says don't go, that is exactly where you must go. Most people live their lives trying to lower the volume of this voice through distractions. They use social media, television, alcohol or mindless gossip to drown out the internal critic. But the voice is still there, whispering in the background, creating a sense of low-level anxiety that never truly goes away. This is why people feel unfulfilled even when their lives look good on paper. They haven't dealt with the architect. They've just tried to ignore it. True mastery comes from facing the voice, looking it in the eye, and saying, "I hear you, but I am going anyway." This is the difference between being a reactive animal and a conscious human being. You have the power to override your programming. Every time you do what you said you were going to do, despite the voice telling you not to, you weaken its grip. You are building a new neural pathway. You are training yourself to trust your intentions more than your impulses. The architect of failure wants you to believe that you are a finished product, that your personality and your limitations are set in stone. It wants you to believe that you are just a procrastinator, or that you are just not a math person, or that you are just not a leader. These are all lies. They are labels used to keep you manageable. You are a dynamic process, not a static object. You have the capacity for infinite adaptation, but only if you stop listening to the entity that is trying to keep you small. From this moment on, your task is to become hyper-aware of the architect. When you feel that hesitation in your chest, name it. Recognize it as the survival mechanism trying to do its job. Then, deliberately and calmly, move in the direction of the fear. This is the only way to dismantle the structures of self-sabotage that have been built over years of repetition. You are not a victim of your mind unless you choose to be. You are the master of the house, and it is time to put the architect in its place. Chapter 2: The Illusion of Safety. Safety is the greatest lie of the modern age. We are taught from a young age to seek security, to find a stable job, to avoid conflict, and to play it safe. Your inner voice is the primary enforcer of this ideology. It tells you that as long as you stay within the lines, you are protected. But look around you. Is the 99% who followed the rules actually safe? They are vulnerable to economic shifts. They are drained by unfulfilling work, and they are plagued by the regret of never knowing what they were truly capable of. The safety your inner voice promises is an illusion. It is a gilded cage. To the inner voice, any change is a threat. It views your desire for more as a dangerous gamble. It will tell you that you should be grateful for what you have, implying that wanting more is somehow greedy or risky. This is a tactic to keep you compliant. The truth is that there is no such thing as standing still. In life, you are either growing or you are decaying. By choosing the illusion of safety, you are choosing a slow decay. Think about the person who stays in a dead-end relationship because they are afraid of being alone. Their inner voice tells them that the known pain is better than the unknown possibility. Think about the person who stays in a soul-crushing job because they are afraid of the job market. Their inner voice tells them that a steady paycheck is worth the sacrifice of their spirit. This is self-sabotage disguised as pragmatism. The 1% realize that the only true security comes from their own ability to adapt, to produce, and to conquer. They don't look for safety in external structures. They find it in their own internal discipline. When your inner voice tries to sell you on safety, you must ask yourself, safety from what? Usually, it is safety from the possibility of embarrassment, safety from the effort of hard work, or safety from the pain of failure. But these are the very things required for greatness. You cannot have the victory without the risk of the battle. Most people spend their lives trying to build a fortress around their comfort zone, only to realize that the fortress has become a prison. The walls they built to keep the world out have kept them in. Your inner voice is the guard at the gate of that prison. Every time you think about stepping out, the guard reminds you of all the dangers lurking in the shadows. But what the guard doesn't tell you is that the shadows are where the rewards are. Everything you want in life is on the other side of your fear. If it weren't, you would already have it. The reason you don't have the body, the bank account, or the peace of mind you desire is that the path to those things requires you to walk through the fire of discomfort. Your inner voice wants to protect you from that fire, not realizing that the fire is what will forge you into something stronger. You must stop viewing discomfort as a sign that something is wrong. Instead, start viewing it as a sign that you are on the right track. If you are not uncomfortable at least once a day, you are playing too small. You are giving in to the illusion of safety. The 99% are terrified of being wrong. They are terrified of looking stupid. This fear of social judgment is a massive part of the inner voice's strategy. It tells you that everyone is watching you, waiting for you to fail. But here is a hard truth. Most people don't care about you. They are too busy listening to their own inner critics and worrying about their own safety to pay much attention to your journey. The fear of what others think is just another ghost created by your mind to keep you in line. When you realize that you are playing to an empty theater, you are finally free to perform for yourself. You must develop a high tolerance for uncertainty. The inner voice hates uncertainty. It wants a guaranteed outcome before it allows you to act. But there are no guarantees in life. There is only probability. By taking action, you increase the probability of success. By staying safe, you guarantee the probability of mediocrity. Mastery of the inner voice means learning to act in the face of uncertainty. It means being okay with the fact that you might fail, knowing that failure is just data. The inner voice treats failure as a terminal diagnosis. It tells you that if you fail, you are a failure. This is a category error. Failure is an event, not an identity. The 1% fail more than the 99% because they are in the game. They are taking shots. The person who never fails is the person who never tries. Ask yourself, what would you do today if you knew that the illusion of safety was just that? If you knew that you were already in danger of wasting your life, would you still be so afraid of taking a risk? The true danger is not in the pursuit of greatness. The true danger is in the acceptance of the average. Your inner voice will never stop trying to pull you back into the herd. It is your job to keep pushing forward. You must become comfortable with being the outlier. You must be willing to walk alone for a while if it means walking in the right direction. The safety you seek is found in your own competence and your own resilience. It is not found in a pension, a title, or the approval of others. Break the illusion. Step out of the cage. The world is wide, and it belongs to those who are brave enough to face the discomfort of the unknown. Chapter 3: The Language of Resistance. Resistance does not always come as a loud no. More often, it comes as a gentle later. This is the language of resistance, and it is the most sophisticated tool in the arsenal of the inner voice. Procrastination is not a time management problem. It is an emotional regulation problem. You procrastinate because the task at hand triggers a negative emotion in you, and your inner voice offers you a quick escape through distraction. It tells you that you will be more focused after you check your email, or that you should clean your desk before you start that project. It convinces you that you are being productive when you are actually just being busy. The 99% are experts at being busy while achieving nothing. They mistake movement for progress. Your inner voice loves this. It loves when you spend hours researching the best workout plan instead of just going for a run. It loves when you buy 10 books on entrepreneurship instead of making your first sales call. This is because research and planning feel safe. They don't require you to put yourself on the line. Resistance is clever because it often disguises itself as virtue. It tells you that you are being responsible, thorough, or cautious. But you must learn to recognize the underlying motive. If the action you are taking is moving you away from the work that actually matters, it is resistance. You must develop a radar for your own bullshit. When you hear yourself saying, "I'll start on Monday," you need to understand that Monday is a mythical land where all your discipline lives, but it is a land that never arrives. The only time you have is now. The inner voice uses the concept of tomorrow to rob you of today. It creates a vision of a future self who is stronger, more motivated, and better equipped. But that future self is a fantasy. You are the only version of you that exists, and if you don't do it now, you likely won't do it then. Resistance also uses the language of perfectionism. It tells you that if it's not perfect, it's not worth doing. This is a trap. Perfectionism is just a high-end version of fear. It is the fear of being judged for your flaws. By setting an impossible standard, the inner voice ensures that you never even start or that you never finish. The 1% understand that done is better than perfect. They are willing to put out work that is messy, to make mistakes in public, and to learn on the fly. They know that the only way to get to perfect is to go through a lot of bad. Your inner voice will try to shame you for your mediocre first attempts. It will compare your beginning to someone else's middle. You must ignore this. The only valid comparison is you against who you were yesterday. Another form of resistance is the obsession with how. Your inner voice will demand a full step-by-step plan before it allows you to move. It will tell you that you can't start because you don't know how to do X or Y, but the how is revealed through the doing. You don't need to see the whole staircase to take the first step. In fact, you can't see the whole staircase until you start climbing. The 99% stay at the bottom, arguing about the best way to climb, while the 1% are already halfway up, figuring it out as they go. You must learn to embrace the fog. You must be willing to move forward even when you can't see the destination clearly. Resistance thrives in clarity's absence, but it dies in the face of action. Every time you take a step, the fog clears just a little bit more. The language of resistance is also found in the stories you tell yourself about your identity. I'm just not a morning person. I'm not good with people. I've always struggled with my weight. These are not facts, they are stories. They are narratives created by your inner voice to justify your current state. By labeling yourself, you give yourself permission to stay the same. You are essentially saying, I can't change because this is who I am. But you are not a noun, you are a verb. You are not a fixed identity, you are a series of actions. If you want to be a morning person, get out of bed. If you want to be good with people, go talk to them. Your inner voice will scream that this is out of character. Good. Let it scream. Your character is something you build, not something you are born with. To master the language of resistance, you must become a translator. When the voice says, I'm tired, translate that to I'm afraid of the effort. When the voice says, I'll do it later, translate that to I am trying to avoid discomfort. Once you call resistance by its real name, it loses its power over you. It's like the monster under the bed. Once you turn on the light, you realize it's just a pile of laundry. You must hold yourself to a standard of radical honesty. Stop lying to yourself about why you aren't where you want to be. It's not the economy, it's not your upbringing, and it's not your lack of time. It is your surrender to the language of resistance. You have the same 24 hours as everyone else. The difference is how much of that time you spend listening to the excuses of your inner voice. From this moment on, when you feel the urge to delay, to overplan, or to self-criticize, recognize it as resistance. Smile at it. Acknowledge its presence. And then do the work anyway. The work is the only thing that matters. Everything else is just noise. Chapter 4. Rewriting the Script. Most of the thoughts you have today are the same thoughts you had yesterday. Your mind is on a loop, playing a script that was written by your past experiences, your parents, your teachers, and the media. If you don't like the results you are getting in life, you have to rewrite the script. You cannot build a new life with an old mind. The 99% are passive consumers of their own thoughts. They let the script run in the background, never questioning its validity. But the 1% are active editors. They listen for the glitches in the script and they rewrite them in real time. This is not about positive thinking in a superficial way. It's not about looking at a pile of garbage and saying there is no garbage. It's about looking at the garbage and saying I have the tools to clean this up. It's about shifting from a victim narrative to a hero narrative. A victim narrative says this happened to me, and therefore I am stuck. A hero narrative says this happened to me, and therefore I have a unique opportunity to grow. Your inner voice is currently programmed for the victim narrative because it's easier. It requires less responsibility. If you are a victim, you don't have to do anything. If you are the hero, you have to take action. Rewriting the script requires you to challenge every I can't and I won't that pops into your head. When your inner voice says I can't do this, you must immediately follow it with the question, why not? Usually the answer is a weak excuse. I can't do this because I might fail. Okay, what if you do fail? Will the world end? No, you will learn something and try again. By interrogating your inner voice, you expose its irrationality. You begin to see that most of your mental limitations are completely arbitrary. You have been living in a room with the door unlocked, but you've been convinced by the voice that the door is bolted shut. You must also change the way you talk to yourself about your struggles. Instead of saying I'm stressed, try saying I'm being challenged. Instead of saying I'm overwhelmed, try saying I'm in a period of high growth. Words have power. They shape your perception of reality. If you use the language of weakness, you will feel weak. If you use the language of strength, you will feel strong. This is not magic, it's neurobiology. Your brain responds to the signals you give it. If you tell your brain that you are in a crisis, it will trigger the fight or flight response, which shuts down your creative thinking. If you tell your brain that you are facing a puzzle, it will stay engaged and look for solutions. Most people are constantly signaling to their brains that they are under attack by their own lives. You must learn to signal that you are in command. This requires a constant, daily effort. You have spent decades reinforcing the old script. You won't change it in an afternoon. You need to become an obsessed editor of your own mind. When you catch a negative thought, stop. Rephrase it. Repeat the new version. This might feel fake at first. Your inner voice will tell you that you are lying to yourself. But the old script was also a lie. You are just choosing a lie that serves you rather than one that hinders you. Over time, the new script becomes the default. You begin to see yourself as someone who handles business, someone who doesn't quit, someone who finds a way. This new identity then dictates your actions, which in turn produces new results. The 99% wait for their results to change before they change their thoughts. They say I'll feel confident when I have the money, but it works the other way around. You have to develop the confidence and the mindset of a wealthy person before the money shows up. You have to be the person before you can have the things. Your inner voice will try to keep you tethered to your current reality. It will point to your bank account or your current status as proof that you shouldn't be confident. You must learn to ignore the current evidence and focus on the internal blueprint. You are the architect now. You decide what the building looks like, regardless of what the empty lot looks like today. This process of rewriting the script also involves pruning your environment. The voices of the people around you often become your inner voice. If you spend time with people who complain, who make excuses, and who think small, their script will bleed into yours. You cannot master your inner voice while being surrounded by external voices that reinforce your saboteur. The 1% are very protective of their mental space. They don't allow just anyone to speak into their lives. They seek out mentors, books, and environments that reflect the script they want to write. You must be willing to walk away from people who benefit from your staying small. This is tough love, but it is necessary. Your growth will be a threat to those who are comfortable in their mediocrity. They will try to use their scripts to pull you back down. Do not let them. Your primary responsibility is to your own potential. Rewriting the script is a lifelong journey. Even as you reach new levels of success, the inner voice will find new ways to sabotage you. It will move from "you can't do it" to "you can't keep it" or "you don't deserve it." This is known as the upper limit problem. You must be ready for it. Every time you level up, you need a new script. You must constantly be auditing your thoughts and asking, does this thought serve the person I am becoming? If the answer is no, discard it. There is no room for dead weight in your mind. You are the master of your narrative. Write a story that is worth living. Chapter 5: The Discipline of Silence. We live in the noisiest era in human history. Not just external noise, but mental noise. From the moment you wake up, you are bombarded with notifications, news, opinions, and distractions. All of this external noise feeds your inner voice, giving it more material to use against you. The saboteur thrives in chaos. It loves when you are distracted because that is when it can slip in unnoticed. To master your inner voice, you must develop the discipline of silence. You must learn to find the space between your thoughts. Most people are terrified of silence. They cannot sit in a room for 10 minutes without checking their phones. This is because in the silence, they are forced to confront their own minds, and they don't like what they hear. But you cannot fix what you are unwilling to face. Silence is the laboratory of the self. It is where you observe the patterns of your inner voice without being swept away by them. The 1% prioritize stillness. They understand that a calm mind is a powerful mind. When you are constantly reactive, you are at the mercy of your impulses. When you are still, you gain the ability to respond intentionally. This is the essence of discipline. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment, and that bridge is built in the quiet moments of reflection. You must create a daily practice of intentional silence. Whether you call it meditation, deep work, or just sitting still, you need time every day where you are not consuming anything. No podcasts, no music, no social media, just you and your mind. During this time, your inner voice will likely go crazy. It will tell you that you are wasting time, that you have things to do, and that this is boring. Good. Observe that. See it for what it is, a desperate attempt by the saboteur to regain control. By staying in the silence, you are proving to yourself that you are not your thoughts. You are the observer. This detachment is the key to mastery. When you can watch a thought of fear arise and let it pass without acting on it, you have won. The 99% are puppets of their thoughts. If they think they are hungry, they eat. If they think they are tired, they sleep. If they think they are bored, they distract themselves. They have zero gap between impulse and action. The discipline of silence creates that gap. In that gap lies your freedom. The longer the gap, the more control you have over your life. Imagine your mind is a turbulent ocean. On the surface, there are waves of emotion and thought crashing and changing. But deep down, the ocean is calm and still. Most people live on the surface, tossed around by every wave. The discipline of silence allows you to sink into the depths. From that place of stillness, you can look up at the waves and realize they are not the whole ocean. They are just surface movements. You are the depth. This perspective changes everything. It allows you to face the storms of life without being destroyed by them. You realize that your inner voice is just a wave. It might be loud, it might be scary, but it cannot touch the essence of who you are. The 1% use silence as a competitive advantage. While everyone else is reacting to the latest trend or the latest outrage, the 1% are thinking, strategizing, and reflecting. They are not easily swayed by the noise of the world. They have an internal compass that is calibrated in the quiet. You must protect your silence at all costs. Set boundaries with your technology and with other people. If you don't control your attention, someone else will. And whoever controls your attention controls your life. The inner voice loves a scattered mind. It loves when you have 20 tabs open in your brain. It uses that fragmentation to create a sense of overwhelm. But when you focus on one thing at a time with total presence, the inner voice is silenced. This is why flow states are so rewarding. In flow, the self-consciousness of the inner voice disappears. You become the action itself. The goal is to bring that quality of presence into your entire life. This starts with the discipline of silence. It starts with the willingness to be bored. It starts with the decision to put down the phone and look at the world. You must also learn to silence the external critics. Most of the noise in your head is just an echo of the noise outside. Stop listening to people who haven't been where you want to go. Stop consuming news that is designed to keep you in a state of fear. Stop scrolling through the curated lives of others and start building your own. The more you reduce the external noise, the easier it becomes to manage the internal noise. Silence is not a lack of something. It is the presence of everything. It is the foundation of clarity. Without clarity, you are just running in circles. With clarity, every action you take is precise and powerful. Cultivate the silence. Master the gap. Become the observer. Chapter 6. Emotional Resilience. Your inner voice uses your emotions as its primary weapon. It knows exactly which buttons to push to trigger guilt, shame, or fear. When you experience a setback, the inner voice is there to amplify the pain. It takes a simple mistake and turns it into a character flaw. This is where most people quit. They cannot handle the emotional weight of their own self-criticism. But the 1% have developed emotional resilience. They have learned that emotions are like weather. They are real, but they are not permanent. You can feel a storm of doubt without becoming the storm. Emotional resilience is the ability to stay the course even when you feel like falling apart. It is the realization that your feelings are not a reliable guide to reality. The 99% are emotional hedonists. They do what feels good and avoid what feels bad. But greatness usually feels bad in the beginning. It feels like strain, it feels like sacrifice, and it feels like isolation. If you only act when you feel motivated, you will be inconsistent. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings are fickle. Discipline is the ability to act regardless of how you feel. Your inner voice will try to convince you that you need to be in the right mood to do your best work. This is a lie. Professionalism is doing the work even when you're not in the mood. In fact, the work you do when you're not in the mood is often the work that matters most because it reinforces your mastery over your impulses. You must learn to decouple your actions from your emotions. When you feel a wave of anxiety, acknowledge it. Say to yourself, I am experiencing anxiety. This is different from saying I am anxious. One is an observation of a passing state. The other is a statement of identity. By changing your language, you create space between yourself and the emotion. This space allows you to choose your response. Resilience is not the absence of emotion, it is the mastery of it. It is the ability to feel the fear and do it anyway. It is the ability to feel the disappointment of a failure and start again immediately. The inner voice will try to use your past against you. It will bring up old wounds and old failures to prove that you shouldn't try again. This is a form of emotional blackmail. You must refuse to pay. Your past is a school, not a prison. The only power the past has over you is the power you give it in the present. The 1% use their emotions as fuel. They take their frustration and turn it into drive. They take their fear and turn it into focus. They don't try to suppress their emotions, they channel them. Think of your emotions as a wild horse. If you let the horse lead, you will end up in a ditch. If you try to kill the horse, you have no power. But if you break the horse and learn to ride it, you can go anywhere. This requires a firm hand and a clear will. You must be the rider. Your inner voice is the horse's instinct to run away when it gets spooked. You must be the one who keeps the reins tight and stays on the path. Developing resilience also means learning to handle social rejection. The 99% are paralyzed by the thought of what others think. Their inner voice tells them that social exile is the ultimate catastrophe. But the 1% realize that the approval of the crowd is a moving target and a poor substitute for self-respect. If you are doing anything worthwhile, you will be criticized. You will be misunderstood. You will be laughed at. This is the price of entry. If you can't pay that price, you don't get the prize. Resilience is building an internal validation system. It is knowing that your worth is not tied to your results or to the opinions of others. When you master your inner voice, you become your own highest authority. You don't need a pat on the back from the world because you have the satisfaction of your own discipline. This makes you dangerous. A person who doesn't need external validation is a person who cannot be controlled. Your inner voice will try to make you small so that you are safe from judgment. You must choose to be large and accept the judgment as a badge of honor. Every time you push through an emotional block, you are getting stronger. Just like a muscle, your resilience grows under tension. Don't wish for an easy life, wish for the strength to endure a difficult one. The challenges you face are not obstacles to your success, they are the path to your success. They are the training ground where you learn to silence the saboteur and trust the master. When the world gets heavy and your inner voice starts its funeral march, stand up straight, take a deep breath, and move. Movement is the antidote to emotional stagnation. Don't think, just act. The feelings will eventually catch up with the actions. You are the captain of your soul. Do not let the weather dictate where you take the ship. Chapter 7. The Power of Identity. The strongest force in the human personality is the need to remain consistent with how we define ourselves. If you define yourself as a failure, your inner voice will ensure that you act like a failure. If you define yourself as a procrastinator, your inner voice will provide you with endless distractions to maintain that identity. Self-sabotage is often just your mind trying to bring your external reality back into alignment with your internal identity. This is why many people who win the lottery lose it all within a few years. Their bank account changed, but their identity didn't. They still saw themselves as people who don't have money, so they unconsciously sabotaged themselves until the money was gone. To stop self-sabotage forever, you must change your identity at the root. You must stop trying to change what you do and start changing who you are. The 99% focus on goals. The 1% focus on identity. A goal is something you try to achieve. An identity is someone you become. When you are working toward a goal, your inner voice is constantly reminding you of how far you have to go. It highlights the gap between where you are and where you want to be, which creates stress and a sense of inadequacy. But when you adopt a new identity, the actions follow naturally. If you identify as an athlete, you don't have to debate whether or not to go to the gym. It's just what you do. If you identify as a leader, you don't have to find the courage to speak up. It is simply part of your nature. The shift from doing to being is the ultimate hack for mastering the inner voice. Your inner voice is the guardian of your current identity. It uses I am statements to lock you in place. I am just not good at sales. I am a night owl. I am prone to anxiety. You must begin to hijack these I am statements. Start stating who you are becoming in the present tense. I am a person of extreme discipline. I am an elite performer. I am the master of my mind. At first, your inner voice will call you a liar. It will point to your past as evidence that these statements aren't true. But remember, the past is not a prophecy. You have the right to reinvent yourself at any moment. Identity is a choice, not a birthright. The 99% believe they were born with a fixed set of traits. The 1% know they are self-made in the most literal sense. You are the sculptor and the clay. To change your identity, you need to provide your brain with evidence. Every small win is a vote for the person you want to become. If you want to identify as a disciplined person, the act of making your bed in the morning is a vote for that identity. If you want to identify as a writer, writing one paragraph is a vote. You don't need a landslide victory. You just need a majority of the votes. Your inner voice loses power as the evidence for your new identity grows. Eventually, it will stop saying you can't and start saying this isn't like us. When you reach that point, you have achieved mastery. The sabotage stops because the mind no longer sees the new behavior as a threat to its identity. It now sees the old, lazy behavior as the threat. This is a profound shift. You are now being pulled toward your goals by your identity rather than having to push yourself toward them with willpower. Willpower is a finite resource. Identity is an infinite source of energy. Most people are trying to white-knuckle their way to success while still fundamentally believing they are not worthy of it. This creates a state of internal friction that eventually leads to burnout. You must resolve this friction by aligning your self-image with your ambitions. Think about the version of you that has already achieved everything you want. How do they walk? How do they talk? How do they treat their time? Start acting like that person today. Don't wait for the success to act successful. The action creates the identity, and the identity creates the results. Your inner voice will try to pull you back into the comfort of your old, smaller self. It will use nostalgia and the fear of losing your friends to keep you stuck. But you must be willing to kill your old self to give birth to your new one. This is the hero's journey. It involves leaving the ordinary world and the ordinary identity behind. It is a lonely process at times, but it is the only way to reach the heights. You must become obsessed with your new identity. Protect it like a flame in a windstorm. Don't let the opinions of the 99% dampen your fire. They can only see who you were. You are the only one who can see who you are becoming. The power of identity is the power of certainty. When you are certain of who you are, the whispers of the inner voice become irrelevant. They are like bugs hitting the windshield of a speeding car. They might make a mess, but they don't slow the car down. Build your identity on your values and your discipline, not on your feelings or your external circumstances. Circumstances change, feelings fade, but identity is the bedrock. Who are you? If you can't answer that question with conviction, you will always be a victim of your inner voice. Define yourself before the world defines you. Choose an identity that is worthy of your potential and then live into it every single day. Chapter 8: Strategic Action. The inner voice loves to talk, but it hates to act. It loves to theorize, to plan, and to debate, but it is terrified of the moment of execution. This is because action is the ultimate truth-teller. In action, your excuses are exposed, and your illusions are shattered. The 99% are stuck in a cycle of analysis paralysis. They believe that they need more information before they can move. But information without execution is just a sophisticated form of entertainment. The 1% understand that the only real learning happens in the field. They value strategic action over perfect planning. Strategic action is the ability to break a massive, intimidating goal into small, manageable steps, and then execute them with relentless consistency. The inner voice will try to overwhelm you by focusing on the mountain. You must focus on the next 5 feet. If you look at the whole mountain, you will find 100 reasons to turn back. If you look at the next 5 feet, you can always take one more step. This is how you defeat the saboteur. You make the task so small that the voice has nothing to talk about. It can't tell you that you can't walk 5 feet. And once you've walked 5 feet, you do it again and again. Mastery is nothing more than the accumulation of small wins. You must stop looking for the quantum leap or the big break. These are myths that keep people waiting on the sidelines. The only way to the top is the slow, steady grind of strategic action. Your inner voice will tell you that the grind is beneath you, or that you should find a hack or a shortcut. Ignore this. The shortcut is the long way. The person who tries to skip the steps never develops the strength required to stay at the top. The 1% embrace the mundane. They find joy in the repetitive tasks that the 99% find boring. They know that greatness is hidden in the boring stuff. It's in the daily habit, the consistent outreach, the repetitive practice. Your inner voice will scream for novelty and excitement. It will try to lure you away from your plan with a shiny new opportunity. This is the saboteur trying to break your momentum. Momentum is the most powerful force in the world of achievement. It takes a huge amount of energy to get a train moving, but once it's at full speed, it can crash through a brick wall. Your inner voice will try to stop you while you're still in the station. It will throw every obstacle in your way to prevent you from getting that initial movement. You must be prepared for this. The first 2 weeks of any new endeavor are the hardest, not because the work is hard, but because the internal resistance is at its peak. Once you get past that point, the voice starts to quiet down, and the momentum starts to take over. Strategic action also means knowing when to pivot and when to persevere. The 99% quit when things get hard. The 1% quit when things are no longer working. There is a massive difference. Quitting because of difficulty is a sign of a weak inner voice. Quitting because the strategy is flawed is a sign of intelligence. To tell the difference, you must be brutally honest with yourself. Are you quitting because you're tired or because you've genuinely found a better path? Most of the time, the inner voice is just trying to get you to quit because it wants to go back to the couch. You must develop the discipline to stay in the game long enough to see results. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a year. They want immediate gratification, and when they don't get it, their inner voice tells them it's not working. You must have a longer time horizon. Think in decades, act in minutes. This perspective removes the pressure of the moment and allows you to focus on the quality of your action. Another tactic of the inner voice is to make you focus on things you can't control. It wants you to worry about the competition, the weather, the government, or the opinions of strangers. This is a waste of mental energy. Strategic action is about focusing 100% of your effort on the things within your control. Your effort, your attitude, and your execution. Everything else is just noise. If you find yourself worrying about things you can't change, your inner voice has successfully distracted you. Bring your focus back to the task at hand. What is the one thing you can do right now to move the needle? Do that. Then do the next thing. This is how empires are built. It's not through grand gestures. It's through the relentless accumulation of small, strategic actions. The world doesn't care about your intentions. It only cares about your output. Your inner voice will try to convince you that you are a good person because you have good intentions. This is a trap. Intentions without action are a form of self-delusion. You are what you do, not what you say you're going to do. Hold yourself to the highest standard of execution. Stop talking about your plans and start showing your results. The 1% are known by their fruit, not their roots. Silence the inner critic with the roar of your progress. Action is the best antidepressant, the best confidence builder, and the best way to prove the saboteur wrong. Move now. Chapter 9. The Circle of Influence. Your inner voice does not exist in a vacuum. It is constantly being fed by the environment you inhabit. The people you spend time with, the content you consume, and the physical space you live in all contribute to the internal narrative. Most people are completely unconscious of how their circle of influence is shaping their thoughts. They allow negative, mediocre, or small-minded people to rent space in their heads. This makes the battle with the inner voice 10 times harder. If everyone around you is making excuses, your inner voice will find it very easy to justify your own excuses. But if you are surrounded by people who are chasing greatness, your inner voice will be forced to level up. The 1% are extremely selective about who they allow into their inner circle. They understand that energy is contagious. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. This is not just a cliché. It is a fundamental law of human psychology. Your brain's mirror neurons are constantly at work, mimicking the behaviors, attitudes, and speech patterns of those around you. If your circle is full of the 99%, you will eventually become one of them, no matter how much you listen to audiobooks like this one. You must audit your relationships. Ask yourself, does this person challenge me to grow, or do they make me feel comfortable in my current state? True friends are not those who always agree with you. They are those who hold you to a higher standard than you hold yourself. They are the ones who will call you out on your bullshit and remind you of your potential when your inner voice is trying to make you forget it. Your inner voice will try to make you feel guilty for distancing yourself from negative people. It will tell you that you are being elitist or that you are abandoning your roots. This is the saboteur trying to keep you anchored to the old version of yourself. You cannot fly with eagles if you are scratching with the chickens. This is not about being better than others. It is about being better than you were yesterday. And you cannot do that if you are constantly being pulled down by the gravity of other people's limitations. The circle of influence also extends to the information you consume. In the digital age, you are being fed a constant stream of high-octane distraction and fear. The news media and social media algorithms are designed to trigger your inner voice's survival mechanisms. They want you to be angry, afraid, and envious, because those emotions drive engagement. But those emotions also kill your creativity and your drive. Most people spend their mental energy on things that have zero impact on their actual lives. They argue with strangers online. They worry about celebrities they've never met. And they consume doom-scrolling content that leaves them feeling hopeless. You must put your mind on a strict diet. Unfollow anyone who doesn't inspire you or teach you. Delete apps that drain your time and your focus. Treat your attention as your most valuable resource because it is. Your inner voice is a reflection of the inputs you give it. If you feed it garbage, it will produce garbage thoughts. If you feed it wisdom, discipline, and high-level strategy, it will become a powerful ally. The 1% curate their digital environment as carefully as their physical one. They listen to podcasts that expand their thinking, read books that challenge their beliefs, and follow people who are further along the path than they are. They understand that their mind is a garden, and if they don't consciously plant seeds of greatness, weeds of mediocrity will grow by default. You must also consider your physical environment. Your space is an external representation of your internal state. If your home and office are cluttered and chaotic, your mind will be too. Your inner voice uses environmental chaos to create mental friction. A clean, organized, and intentional space sends a signal to your brain that you are in control. It reduces the number of micro-decisions you have to make, which preserves your willpower for the work that matters. The 1% create environments that facilitate their success. They have a dedicated space for deep work. They surround themselves with reminders of their goals, and they eliminate distractions before they even start. Your inner voice will tell you that the state of your desk doesn't matter, but it is lying. Everything matters. How you do one thing is how you do everything. Mastery is a holistic process. You cannot have a mastered mind in a messy life. Take ownership of your circle of influence. Be the architect of your environment. If you can't find a group of people who inspire you, be alone for a while. It is better to be alone than to be in bad company. In the silence of your own company, you can more easily hear the truth of your own potential. Eventually, as you grow, you will attract the right people. Success is a magnet. When you start performing at a high level, other high performers will notice. Your circle will naturally shift as you do, but you must be the one to initiate the change. Stop waiting for the right environment and start creating it. Your inner voice will eventually mirror the excellence of your surroundings. Chapter 10: Permanent Mastery. Mastery of the inner voice is not a destination you reach and then never have to think about again. It is a daily practice, a lifelong commitment to internal excellence. The saboteur never truly goes away. It just gets quieter as you get stronger. But if you become complacent, if you stop doing the work, the voice will return with a vengeance. Permanent mastery is the ability to maintain your discipline and your perspective over the long haul. The 99% are sprinters in the game of self-improvement. They get inspired for a week, they make some changes, and then they slowly drift back into their old habits. They are looking for a permanent fix to a temporary problem, but the problem is not the voice itself. It is the tendency to listen to it. You must become a marathoner. You must understand that the battle for your mind is fought every single morning. The 1% don't rely on inspiration. They rely on systems. They have built a life that makes it easier to stay on track than to fall off. They have routines that ground them, habits that sustain them, and a mindset that anticipates challenges. They know that life will happen. There will be setbacks, illnesses, and unexpected crises. But they don't let these events break their internal order. Permanent mastery is about being anti-fragile. A fragile object breaks under stress. A robust object resists stress. But an anti-fragile object gets stronger because of stress. You must aim to be anti-fragile. When your inner voice tries to use a crisis to sabotage you, use that crisis as an opportunity to prove your mastery. Every challenge is a chance to reinforce your new identity. The more you overcome, the more certain you become of your own power. This certainty is the ultimate shield. It doesn't mean you won't feel fear or doubt, but those feelings will no longer have the power to stop you. You will view them as mere data points, as sensations in the body, rather than as commands to be followed. This is the definition of a master, someone who is in command of themselves regardless of the external circumstances. Your inner voice will try to use your success against you. It will tell you that you've made it and that you can afford to relax. This is the trap of the plateau. Many people stop growing once they reach a certain level of comfort. Their inner voice convinces them that they've done enough. But the 1% know that there is no enough. Not because they are greedy, but because they understand that growth is the essence of life. To stop growing is to start dying. Permanent mastery requires you to constantly set new standards for yourself. You must become your own toughest critic and your own most encouraging coach. Don't compare yourself to the 99%. That is a low bar that will only lead to arrogance and stagnation. Compare yourself to the highest version of who you could possibly be. That gap will keep you hungry. That gap will keep you humble. The saboteur hates humility and hunger. It wants you to be proud and satisfied because proud and satisfied people are easy to manipulate. Stay hungry for the next level of your own evolution. The journey of mastery is infinite. There is always a deeper level of focus, a higher level of discipline, and a more profound sense of peace to be found. You must also learn to forgive yourself for the moments when you do slip up. Even the masters have bad days. The difference is that the master doesn't let a bad day turn into a bad week or a bad month. They don't use a mistake as an excuse to give up on the whole process. Your inner voice will try to use your slips to shame you into quitting. It will say, "See, you're still the same old person." You must answer with, "No, I am a master who had a human moment, and I am back on the path right now." The speed of your recovery is more important than the perfection of your performance. Don't dwell on the mistake. Focus on the next right move. This resilience is what makes mastery permanent. It's not about never falling. It's about always getting up. As you continue on this path, you will notice that your inner voice starts to change its tone. It may never become a cheerleader, but it can become a useful advisor. It can point out genuine risks you need to manage or areas where you need to improve. When you have mastered the voice, you can use its analytical power without being controlled by its emotional volatility. You turn the saboteur into a strategist. This is the highest form of internal alignment. Your mind is no longer a house divided against itself. It is a unified force moving toward a single vision. This unity is what allows the 1% to achieve things that seem impossible to others. They aren't smarter or luckier. They are simply not fighting themselves. Imagine what you could accomplish if 100% of your mental energy was focused on your goals, rather than 50% being wasted on self-doubt and internal arguments. That is the promise of permanent mastery. It is the ultimate freedom. The freedom to be who you are, to do what you love, and to create what you desire without the interference of your own mind. You have the tools. You have the blueprint. Now you must have the consistency. Mastery is not a gift. It is a choice you make every single day. Choose to be the master. A closing. You have reached the end of this transcript, but you are only at the beginning of your transformation. The words you have heard are powerful, but they are useless if they remain as mere ideas in your head. Knowledge without application is the ultimate form of self-sabotage. It gives you the illusion of progress while you remain exactly where you are. The 99% will listen to this and feel inspired for an hour, and then they will go back to their old habits, their old excuses, and their old, destructive inner voice. But you are not the 99%. You are the hero of this story. You are the one who is brave enough to look at your own mind and demand more. You are the one who is willing to do the hard work of internal reconstruction. From this moment on, you have a new identity. You are no longer a victim of your thoughts. You are the master of your consciousness. You are no longer a slave to fear. You are a practitioner of discipline. The voice in your head will still try to pull you back. It will still whisper the same old lies. But now you can hear them for what they are. You can recognize the architect of failure, the illusion of safety, and the language of resistance. You have the power to rewrite the script, to find the silence, and to act with strategic precision. You have the tools to build a circle of influence that supports your greatness and the resilience to weather any storm. This is not just about getting more done or making more money. This is about the fundamental reclamation of your own life. It is about the profound self-respect that comes from knowing that you are in command of yourself. Imagine the version of you that exists 1 year from now if you apply these principles every single day. Imagine the confidence in your eyes, the clarity in your mind, and the unstoppable drive in your spirit. That version of you is not a fantasy. It is your inevitable future if you stay on the path. The transformation you seek is an identity-level change. It is a shift from being a spectator of your own life to being the conscious creator of it. External approval, luck, and circumstances are secondary to the internal fortress you are building. When you master your inner voice, the world has no choice but to follow your lead. You are the captain of your soul. You are the master of your fate. Do not wait for a better time. Do not wait for a better feeling. The only time is now. The only way is through. Go out and live the life that the 99% are too afraid to even dream of. Silence the saboteur. Master the voice. Claim your greatness. The journey is yours.